The Chicago skyline glittered beyond the conference room's floor-to-ceiling windows, a mosaic of ambition and steel. I stood at the head of the table mid-pitch, my voice steady, as I unveiled a marketing campaign to a sea of nodding clients. My navy blazer hugged my frame. My chestnut hair swept into a polished bun, every inch, the confident Emma Carter. 38 who'd clawed her way up the corporate ladder. Then my phone buzzed on the table, Nathan's name flashing like a storm warning across the screen. I forced a smile, muttering an apology, and slipped into the hallway expecting his usual check-in. "How's the conference, babe? Killed it yet?" But Nathan's voice slithered through cold as a January wind off Lake Michigan, edged with a smugness that made my stomach lurch. "I'm done with you, Emma. I sold our condo. Our Lincoln Park dream gone for my new life with Jaden. You're on your own now. Good luck." His laugh hit like a blade, sharp and guttural, slicing through 10 years of marriage, as if it were a cruel punchline he'd been waiting to deliver Jaden, his 28-year-old lover, a black queer artist whose vibrant murals splashed across Chicago's South Side, was the future he'd chosen. Our condo. $500,000 of my late nights. My bonuses. My heart wasn't just a home. It was my sanctuary. The brick-and-mortar proof we'd built something unbreakable. Or so I'd thought. My chest tightened, the hallway's sterile fluorescent lights blurring as his words sank in. Sold our condo. The one we'd painted navy blue where I'd burned midnight oil to pay the mortgage, while Nathan sketched logos in his creative phase, Jaden with their braided crown catching every light their Instagram. A gallery of bold art and bolder pride was the spark Nathan chased, a life he thought brighter than ours. His laugh echoed in my mind, mocking, daring me to crumble. Did he picture me sobbing, scrambling, or fading into the background like some discarded muse? My fingers trembled around the phone, but my face held firm, a practiced mask of calm. Nathan thought he'd won, thought he'd torched my world and left me to choke on the ashes, but he didn't know the fire I'd been stoking in silence. I'm Emma, and that call wasn't the end. It was the spark. This isn't just a tale of a husband's betrayal or a marriage in flames. It's about a woman who saw the knife in her back, sharpened her own, and turned a coward's laugh into her loudest victory. Want to know how I made Nathan regret every smug syllable? Stay with me. This is the fight of my life, and I'm not holding back. Picture a Lincoln Park condo, its navy walls glowing under string lights, the scent of rosemary from a half-cooked dinner lingering in the air. That was us, Emma and Nathan, 10 years ago, sprawled on a thrift store couch, toasting with cheap rosé to dreams bigger than our bank account. I was 28, a hungry marketing assistant sketching campaign ideas on napkins. Nathan, my graphic designer with a lopsided grin and eyes like Lake Michigan at dusk, swore he'd crunch the numbers to make our condo, our $500,000, gamble ours forever. We're a team. Emma, he'd whisper, kissing my forehead, and I believed him. I believed in us. Fast forward to 2023 and the fairy tale was fraying. I was 38, a marketing consultant pulling 60-hour weeks to keep our mortgage paid, while Nathan's creative phase stretched into years of freelance gigs that barely covered his coffee runs. The cracks started small, his late-night client meetings at trendy Southside bars. His phone suddenly password-protected, his excuses thinner than the ice on our balcony in February. Just networking, Emma. He'd mutter, eyes flicking away, but the scent of unfamiliar cologne clung to his jackets. My gut churned, whispering warnings I didn't want to hear. Was I the paranoid wife reading shadows where there were none? Then came Jaden. They were 28, Nathan's new collaborator, a black queer artist whose murals painted Chicago's South Side with stories of pride and rebellion. I met them at a Wicker Park art fair, their braided crown catching the sun, their laugh. A melody that turned heads. Jaden's energy was electric, dashikis in vibrant golds, silver rings glinting as they gestured their Instagram, a canvas of unapologetic joy Nathan lit up around them, his jokes sharper, his smile wider. Jaden's got vision, he'd say, his gaze lingering too long. At first I admired Jaden's fire, defended them when Nathan's sister sneered, "They're so loud." But admiration turned to unease when I caught Nathan's hand brushing Jaden's at a gallery opening, their shared glance a secret I wasn't meant to see. The real knife came one night in January 2024. I was folding Nathan's laundry, his chore not mine, when a crumpled receipt slipped from his jeans pocket. A $200 dinner at Alinea, Chicago's priciest restaurant, dated a night. He'd sworn he was stuck at the studio. My hand shook as I smoothed it flat, the candlelit betrayal staring back in black ink. 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, no team meeting. My mind raced, Jaden's laugh. Nathan's locked phone, the way he'd started snapping, "You're too corporate. Emma Jaden lives free." Each jab was a chisel carving doubts into my soul. Was I too rigid? Too old? Not enough for the man who'd once called me his muse? Society tells women to trust, to smooth over cracks, to smile through the sting. My best friend Claire urged me to let it go over brunch, her fork stabbing a waffle as she said, "Don't make a mountain out of a receipt, Emma." But that receipt wasn't a molehill. It was a map to Nathan's betrayal, and I was done ignoring the signs. A 2022 Pew Research study says 70% of women dismiss early infidelity clues, fearing they'll seem crazy. I'd almost joined them, but that night as I sat in our condo's glow, I made a choice. I wasn't Nathan's fool anymore. I was Emma, and I was waking up. Want to know how I started building my armor? Let's step into the storm together. The hotel room was a cocoon of silence, the kind that amplifies every thought. I sat on the edge of the bed, the Chicago skyline glittering like a taunt beyond the window. Nathan's cruel laugh still echoing in my ears. I sold our condo. Good luck. His words weren't just a betrayal. They were a declaration of war. My $500, $1,000 Lincoln Park Haven, the one I'd poured my soul into, was his pawn in a game he thought he'd already won. My heart pounded not with panic, but with a fire I hadn't felt in years. Nathan pictured me shattered, sobbing in this sterile Marriott suite. But he didn't know I'd been building a fortress long before his call. That Alinea receipt, that $200 lie tucked in his jeans, wasn't just evidence, it was my wake-up call. I wasn't the scorned wife Nathan expected. I was Emma Carter, 38, a woman who'd learned to trust her gut the hard way. That receipt dated January 2024 wasn't my first clue. Months earlier, I'd found a $1,000 Venmo to Jaden labeled art supplies on a night Nathan swore he was brainstorming solo. My stomach had twisted, but my best friend Claire's voice echoed, "Don't overreact, Emma. It's probably nothing. Society loves that script women should trust, not snoop." But a 2023 Forbes article I'd read stuck with me. 60% of women lose major assets in divorce because they ignore early signs. I wasn't going to be a statistic. That night, in the glow of my laptop, I made my first move. I opened a secret account at Chase Bank, siphoning $80,000 of my personal savings, my marketing bonuses, my late-night pitches bit by bit, so Nathan wouldn't notice. Every transfer was a quiet rebellion, a brick in the wall I was building around my future. Step 2 was arming myself with knowledge. I called Rachel my lawyer, a Chicago shark in a tailored blazer, who'd helped my colleague Mia claw back her business in a messy divorce. In her loop office, surrounded by law books and the faint scent of espresso, I laid out my evidence, the Alinea receipt, Nathan's locked phone, Jaden's lingering presence at every work event. Illinois is a community property state. Rachel said, her pen tapping like a metronome. "But your condo's safe if it's solely yours. You transferred the deed during the 2024 refinance, right?" I nodded, a spark of pride flaring. Nathan had signed off on the deed transfer without a second glance, too busy chasing Jaden's murals to read the fine print, start logging everything Rachel urged: texts, charges, lies, build a paper trail. That night I downloaded a password-protected app, Notion, and began cataloging every dodged question, every Jaden lives free jab, every time Nathan's cologne smelled like someone else's story. Was I becoming a detective in my own marriage? Damn right. Better a sleuth than a victim. The final straw came 2 weeks before his call. A $700 charge on our joint Amex Hotel Allegro, a boutique spot in the Loop, known for its velvet-curtained suites and discreet check-ins. Nathan claimed it was a client retreat, but his story cracked when I called the hotel posing as his assistant. "No group bookings that night, ma'am," the clerk said, her voice a grenade I didn't see coming. My knees buckled, but my resolve hardened. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream. Instead, I smiled across the dinner table, passing him the roasted Brussels sprouts, while my mind filed his lies like ammunition. Nathan thought he was steps ahead, plotting his Miami escape with Jaden. He didn't know I was already 3 moves deeper. I'm Emma, and those silent moves, bank accounts, lawyer calls, digital logs, were my first stand. While Nathan chased a fantasy with Jaden, I was forging a shield. This isn't just about catching a cheater. It's about a woman who learned preparation is power, and I was just getting started. Want to see how I turned his betrayal into my battlefield? The war's brewing. Stay with me. The navy walls of my condo glowed under the flicker of a single lamp, casting long shadows as I locked the front door. Nathan's call. His smug, "I sold our condo." Good luck still burned in my veins, but his betrayal didn't stop there. My phone buzzed again, each new text a fresh barb, dripping with the arrogance of a man who thought he'd already checkmated me. "Jaden and I are booking flights to Miami." He wrote the words, glowing like a taunt on my screen. "You'll love renting a studio, Emma Moore. Your speed now." A winking emoji punctuated his cruelty, as if my $500,000 home, my decade of love, was a cheap punchline he could toss aside. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the scent of cedar candles mingling with my rising fury, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Reply scream? No. I screenshotted every word, my heart hammering, not with pain but with purpose. Nathan wasn't done carving his exit. Another message landed. I told my family. They get it. We've been drifting, Emma. No hard feelings, right? No hard feelings. The man who'd vowed to build a life with me was rewriting our story, painting me as the cold career woman who'd pushed him into Jaden's vibrant arms, his family Lake Forest elites with their pressed linens and country club brunches swallowed his lies like vintage Bordeaux, his mother called that night, her voice slicing through the phone like a chilled blade. "Emma, you've been so distant, always working. Jaden's freer, you know. They're not the problem." The word freer carried a sneer, heavy with coded judgment, not just about Jaden's black queer identity, but their unapologetic pride, their braided crown and bold murals that Nathan's family couldn't stomach. My knuckles whitened around the phone, rage simmering. Was I fighting Nathan's betrayal, or his entire world's prejudice? Jaden, meanwhile, played their part, oblivious to the storm they'd stepped into. Their Instagram stories lit up my feed clips from a Southside art gallery, their gold hoops glinting under neon lights, a caption reading, "New city, new love, new life." Nathan's arm lingered just out of frame, his presence a ghost in their posts. They didn't know he'd tried to sell my condo, didn't see the receipts I'd logged, didn't realize his promises of a Miami penthouse were built on my money. I scrolled through my thumb, pausing over Jaden's radiant smile. A strange pity tugging at me. They thought they were Nathan's muse, his ticket to a bolder life, but they were just his escape. How long until they saw the cracks in his charm? A 2024 TikTok trend I'd seen came to mind, women sharing stories of being the other person, only to learn they were pawns in a liar's game. Jaden's post, so full of hope, felt like a countdown to that truth. Every text, every call, every Instagram story was a brick in Nathan's arrogant exit, built on the assumption I'd collapse under his weight. He didn't know I'd been building to a fortress of evidence of resolve of power. I sat at my kitchen counter, the glow of my laptop casting jagged shadows across the cedar-scented air, and added his latest messages to my Notion app. His cocky no hard feelings was a gift to my lawyer Rachel. His mother's bias a footnote in my case. A 2023 study from Psychology Today says 80% of betrayers overestimate their control, blind to their partner's strength. Nathan was textbook. His overconfidence was my greatest weapon, and I was sharpening it with every screenshot. I wasn't the broken wife he expected, I was a strategist, and this was my opening gambit. Want to know how I turned his smug exit into his downfall? The battle's just heating up, stay with me. The Cook County courtroom was a battlefield, its oak-paneled walls looming like silent judges. I sat ramrod straight, my navy blazer crisp, my hands folded over the Notion app printouts that held Nathan's undoing. The air smelled of polished wood and nervous anticipation, the kind that clings to your skin. Across the aisle, Nathan slouched in a knockoff designer suit, skinny jeans and a blazer, screaming midlife crisis, his crooked grin faltering under the judge's piercing gaze. He thought this hearing was a formality, a quick grab for half. My $500,000 Lincoln Park condo, my home, my life. Oh, Nathan, you were so wrong. He didn't know the arsenal I'd built in silence, every screenshot, every receipt, every lie meticulously logged. Today wasn't just a trial, it was his reckoning. My lawyer Rachel Cohen rose like a general, her tailored blazer slicing through the room's tension. Your Honor, she declared, her voice a blade. Nathan Carter committed financial fraud, attempting to sell a property he doesn't own. She slid my Notion logs across the bench pages, spilling open like a confession Nathan's texts. I sold our condo, good luck. The $50,000 deposit he'd bragged about, the Alinea receipt, the Hotel Allegro charge. Rachel projected his words onto a courtroom screen, his smug, "You'll love renting." Emma glaring in bold font. A ripple of gasps swept the gallery. Could he really be that reckless, that arrogant? I watched Nathan's face, his eyes darting like a trapped animal, as Rachel read his no hard feelings right aloud, each syllable a nail in his coffin. My heart surged, not with anger, but with a quiet, burning pride. Every lie he'd spun was unraveling, and I was the one pulling the thread. Nathan's lawyer, a flustered man with a tie 2 shades too bright, scrambled to his feet. My client acted impulsively. Your Honor, he stammered, trapped in a strained marriage by Miss Carter's workaholic ways, trapped. I nearly laughed, my lips twitching with the irony. Rachel didn't flinch. Trapped, she countered, her tone icy as a Chicago winter. Then explain this. She slapped down the condo's deed. My name alone in stark black ink, transferred in 2024 when Nathan signed without reading, too distracted by Jaden's murals to care. The condo is solely Munn's, Carter's Rachel said, and this $50,000 deposit. Mr. Carter accepted fraud, plain and simple. The judge, a silver-haired woman with eyes like steel, leaned forward, her pen pausing. Fraud's a serious charge, counsel, she said, her voice low, and insults don't make your client a victim. Nathan's smirk vanished, replaced by a sheen of sweat. Was this the moment he realized he'd lost? Nathan tried charm next, leaning forward, his voice oily with desperation. "Your Honor, I supported Emma's career. He pleaded that condo was our dream. Our dream. The home I'd funded with my bonuses, my 60-hour weeks while he called my work corporate drudgery. Rachel was ready. Here's the refinance paperwork." She said, her tone cuttings signed by Mr. Carter, transferring the deed to Ms. Carter alone. "And this bank statement." She held up the $50,000 deposit wired to Nathan's personal account. "He spent $10,000 already on what, Your Honor, flights to Miami." The judge's eyes narrowed, pinning Nathan like a specimen. "You claim assets you don't own, Mr. Carter," she said, "and fraud. That's not a word this court takes lightly." His shoulders slumped, the fight draining from him. I sat still, my face a mask, but inside a firework of triumph exploded bright and unshakable. The verdict came like a storm. "The court finds clear evidence of financial misconduct," the judge announced, her voice ringing. "The condo remains Ms. Carter's. Mr. Carter repay the $50,000 deposit within 72 hours or face contempt." Nathan stammered, his voice cracking. "It's gone, I spent it." The judge's gaze was unforgiving. "Then find a way or the consequences will find you." I clutched my notion logs, my shield, my sword as the gallery buzzed. My condo, my future mine. Nathan, the man who'd mocked my corporate life, was crumbling, his Miami dreams ash at his feet. I'm Emma, and that courtroom wasn't just a trial, it was my declaration of independence. While Nathan faced the wreckage of his arrogance, I walked out taller, my evidence a fortress, my resolve a flame. This isn't just about winning a case, it's about a woman who turned a traitor's lies into her truth. Want to see what happened when Nathan hit rock bottom? The fallout's next stay with me. The courtroom gavel's echo faded, but the fallout was just beginning. I stepped out of that oak-paneled chamber, my heels clicking on marble with a rhythm that felt like freedom. The Chicago skyline glittered beyond the courthouse windows, a reminder that my $500,000 Lincoln Park condo, my sanctuary, was mine, untouched by Nathan's greedy hands. The judge's verdict had been my crown, but the real drama was unfolding in the shadows, where Jaden began to see the truth and Nathan sank into the ruins of his own making. I could have danced on his defeat, but this wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, about reclaiming my life from the ashes he'd tried to scatter. Jaden's awakening came like a quiet storm. Their Instagram, once a vibrant parade of Southside murals and gold-hooped selfies, turned heavy, reflective. A post from a cramped Rogers Park studio showed them alone, their braids pulled back, their eyes carrying a weight. I recognized. The caption read, "Sometimes the brightest dreams hide the darkest lies. Trust your truth?" I scrolled my finger, pausing, a mix of pity and respect stirring in my chest. Whispers from mutual friends confirmed it. Jaden had left Nathan the motel debacle, the $50,000 deposit frozen, their Miami flights canceled, cracking their rose-tinted view. They'd moved on, collaborating with a queer artist collective, their pride in their Black identity shining brighter without Nathan's shadow. A 2024 study from Psychology Today says 65% of affair partners misjudge their lovers' resources, blinded by charm. Jaden had believed Nathan's promises of penthouses, but the truth? His empty wallet, my condo, set them free. Had they finally seen him for the fraud he was? Nathan, meanwhile, was spiraling into a pit of his own digging. His texts flooded my phone, a pathetic symphony of rage and groveling. "You've destroyed me, Emma." That condo was ours. Then softer. Desperate. "Can we talk?" "I never meant to hurt you." I forwarded each to Rachel, my lawyer, without a reply, my silence louder than his pleas. He'd moved into his sister's Lake Forest basement, a 40-year-old man surrounded by faded lacrosse trophies and floral curtains, a far cry from the Miami penthouse he'd boasted to Jaden, his family once quick to blame my workaholic ways turned cold. His sister Ellen called me one stormy night, her voice thick with shame. We bought his lies. Emma, she said, the wind howling through her words. He said you pushed him away, that Jaden was his freedom. But those texts, we were wrong. Her apology stung, not because it healed, but because it reminded me how alone I'd been fighting a war they'd fueled. Was their betrayal a wound, or just another lesson in my arsenal? Then came Jaden's unexpected visit. They appeared at my condo one rainy afternoon, their vibrant dashiki muted under a gray hoodie, their eyes avoiding mine as they stood in the doorway. "I owe you an apology, Emma," they said, their voice low, clutching a canvas tote like a shield. "Nathan told me you were distant, that you didn't care." I believed him until the motel, until he blamed me for his empty promises. Their words cracked a mix of regret and clarity, their pride bruised but unbroken. I nodded, rearranging a stack of marketing proposals on my counter, my hand steady. "You were a piece in his puzzle, Jaden," I said, my tone. "Even I don't blame you, I blame him." They exhaled a weight lifting and left with a quiet nod, their silhouette fading into the drizzle. I watched them go, not as a rival, but as a soul who'd learned the same brutal truth. I had Nathan's charm was a mirage, and we were both better off without it. I'm Emma, and this aftermath wasn't about gloating. It was about seeing clearly Jaden found their strength. Nathan found his limits, and I found my freedom. A 2023 TED Talk. I watched said, "Forgiveness isn't for the betrayer, it's for you to unchain your heart." I forgave Jaden, not for Nathan, but for the peace it gave me. But the story doesn't end with broken dreams or apologies. It's about what rises from the wreckage. Want to know how I turned this chaos into an empire? The ascents next stay with me. The courtroom victory was my spark, but the fire that followed, that was all me. I stood in my Lincoln Park condo, its navy walls now draped with fairy lights, the air alive with the scent of fresh lilies and ambition. My $500,000 sanctuary, once Nathan's pawn, was no longer just a home. It was the heart of my empire. His betrayal, his smug, "You'll love renting." Emma hadn't broken me, it had unleashed me. The cedar candles flickered as I surveyed the room, packed with women clutching my business cards, their eyes bright with the same hunger I'd felt a year ago. Nathan thought he'd buried me, but he'd only cleared the ground for my ascent. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a coronation, and I was ready to wear the crown. The first battle was within. Imposter syndrome slithered in, whispering, I was just lucky that my courtroom win was a fluke. Late nights in my condo surrounded by silk dresses and half-finished proposals, I'd stare at my reflection in the darkened windows, questioning, am I really enough to do this? Then I met Aisha, a Black entrepreneur who'd turned her own divorce into a chain of Southside cafes. Over coffee at her Pilsen shop, her braids gleaming under pendant lights, she saw my doubt and sliced through it. Emma, you didn't just outsmart Nathan, you outplayed him. She said, her voice like a lifeline. Own it. Her words were a spark pulling me from fear to focus. A 2023 Harvard Business Review study says 70% of women face imposter syndrome post-crisis, but Aisha's story and mine proved pain could be a catalyst. Could I turn my scars into stars? I poured my soul into building. My marketing consultancy, EmpowerFix, launched in April 2025, mentoring women on financial independence and branding. Within 6 months, It grossed $200,000, fueled by Chicago's buzz and loyal clients, women who'd heard my story and arrived with dreams bigger than their doubts. The grand opening of my condo's workshop space was a spectacle, fairy lights, twinkling, a jazz trio filling the air, local bloggers snapping photos. The Chicago Tribune dubbed me the comeback queen, not a scorned wife, but a savvy entrepreneur who'd turned betrayal into a brand. Yet even as flashbulbs popped, Nathan's shadow lingered, his bitter texts still trickling in. "You're nothing without me, Emma." "Nothing," I smirked, signing a contract for a second office in the Loop, my empire expanding while his world shrank. The world took notice. I was invited to speak at a TEDx event in Chicago, my voice ringing out to 500 eager faces in a velvet-draped theater. Betrayal doesn't define you. Preparation does, I told them, sharing how I'd kept my condo's deed separate, my savings untouchable. A young woman in the front row, her notebook scribbled with aspirations, asked, "How do you trust again?" I paused, the weight of her question settling like dust. "Trust yourself first," I said, my voice steady. "That's the foundation of any empire." The applause was thunderous, but her tearful nod stayed with me, a reminder I was more than a survivor. I was a beacon. A 2024 Forbes report says 80% of women entrepreneurs cite personal crises as their drive. I was living proof, my TEDx talk racking up 100,000 views in a week. Was I becoming the voice I'd needed a year ago? Nathan, meanwhile, faded into irrelevance. Whispers reached me. He'd taken a barista job at a Wicker Park Starbucks. His young-at-heart dating profile ghosted his basement life. A stark contrast to my ascent, I launched Empower Fix's online platform, offering webinars on financial literacy, my condo's workshops now streaming nationwide. Nathan pawned his knockoff blazer to cover rent, while my client list grew to $200. The irony wasn't lost on me. His betrayal had pushed me to heights he'd never dreamed of, but this wasn't about him. It was about proving what a woman could do when she stopped dimming her light for a man's ego. I thought of Oprah, who turned childhood pain into a media empire. Her story a mirror to mine. Nathan's laugh had been his weapon. My empire was my answer. I'm Emma. And this rise wasn't just about condos or contracts, it was about rewriting my story. Nathan thought he'd shatter me, but he only forged a queen. My Empower Fix YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers shares tales like mine, proving betrayal is just the first chapter, not the last, but the real power lies in the lessons I learned, the ones that can protect you too. Want to know how to build your own empire from the ashes? The wisdom's next stay with me. I stood in my Lincoln Park condo, the navy walls aglow with fairy lights, their soft shimmer dancing across my $500,000 sanctuary. The scent of cedar candles wrapped around me like a shield, grounding me as I traced my fingers over the Notion app printouts that had won my war. Nathan's betrayal, his smug. I sold our condo. Good luck had been a blade, but its scars weren't wounds. They were lessons etched into my soul. Each one a brick in the empire I'd built. I'd fought, I'd won, but I'd also stumbled, nearly blinded by trust, nearly broken by doubt. Now I'm breaking the fourth wall, stepping out of my story to hand you the map I wish I'd had. These 5 lessons aren't just my truth, they're your armor, your guide to protecting your future from anyone who dares to laugh at your worth. Ready to arm yourself? Let's dive in. Lesson 1. Trust your instincts. That Alinea receipt tucked in. Nathan's jeans wasn't just paper, it was a siren. My gut screamed betrayal, but I almost silenced it. Swayed by my friend Claire's, "You're overreacting," Emma over brunch waffles. Society trains women to doubt, to smile through suspicion, to fear seeming paranoid. I see it now. A 2023 Psychology Today study says 85% of women regret ignoring their intuition in relationships, their instincts buried under pressure to trust. My client, Jenna, paid the price. Her husband drained their savings while she dismissed his work trips. Her tears in my condo's workshop were my wake-up call. Your gut isn't a whisper. It's a war drum. When it speaks, listen. What's your intuition telling you right now? Lesson 2. Secure your finances, no questions asked. I opened that Chase account siphoning $80,000 of my marketing bonuses before Nathan could touch it. It wasn't just money, it was my lifeline. But I almost hesitated, worried it was unromantic or sneaky. A 2023 Forbes report slaps that myth awake. 60% of women lose major assets in divorce due to joint accounts, their trust a trap. My friend Maya learned this the hard way. Her ex left her with $10,000 in debt because she shared every cent I transferred my condo's deed in 2024, a move Nathan signed off on without reading, and it saved me. Separate your wealth always. Why risk your future for someone else's promises? Lesson 3. Document everything like your life depends on it. My Notion app texts receipts that $700 Hotel Allegro charge was my sword in court slicing through Nathan's lies. Every Jaden lives free jab, every dodged question I logged like a detective. It felt obsessive, but it won my condo. Contrast that with my cousin Lisa, who trusted her exes, will sort it out and had no proof when he sold their car. 2024 TikTok trend showed women sharing divorce horror stories, many regretting their lack of evidence. Your phone, your app, your pen, they're your power. What's stopping you from starting a log today? Lesson 4. Hire a lawyer before the storm hits. I called Rachel months before Nathan's call. When that $1,000 Venmo to Jaden raised red flags, her advice: secure the deed log. Evidence saved my condo, my future, but I almost waited thinking, lawyers were for when things get bad. That's a trap. A 2023 legal blog notes, 75% of women who delay legal counsel lose significant assets in divorce. My colleague Sarah waited until her ex froze their accounts, leaving her scrambling. An hour with a lawyer can save years of regret. Why let pride or fear? Lesson 5. Turn pain into power because it's your fuel. Nathan's betrayal could have crushed me, but I channeled it into Empower Fix, my $200,000 consultancy, my TEDx talk, my empire. Every tear became a brick in my foundation. I think of Aisha, my mentor who turned her divorce into a cafe chain, her pain a spark. A 2024 Stanford study says 90% of successful entrepreneurs cite personal setbacks as their drive. Pain isn't your end, it's your engine. But it's a choice. Will you let betrayal dim you, or will you let it ignite you? I'm Emma. And these lessons aren't just my story, they're your roadmap. Nathan thought he'd snuff out my light, but he only made it blaze. My condo, my empire, my truth, they're proof you can rise from any ashes. But the final step isn't mine, it's yours. Want to know how to take these lessons and make them your own? The call to action is next. Stay with me. I stood at the heart of my Lincoln Park condo, fairy lights twinkling above racks of silk dresses, the air thick with the scent of cedar candles, and possibility my $500,000 sanctuary. Once Nathan's target was now a beacon, a workshop space where women gathered their voices, weaving tales of betrayal and triumph. My journey from that gut punch phone call I sold, our condo, good luck, to a $200,000 consultancy empire wasn't just mine. It was a battle cry for every woman who's faced a Nathan, a Jaden, or a world that told her to shrink. As I looked out at the crowd, their eyes mirroring the fire I'd found, a truth hit me like a Chicago wind: winning means nothing if you don't share the map. So here I am, Emma Carter, inviting you to join my journey on TPT Affair Stories, where every video is a spark for your comeback. This isn't just a story, it's your call to rise. Let me tell you about Maya, a woman who walked into my workshop last month. Her shoulders heavy with a familiar shadow. Her fiancé had been working late. His phone locked their joint account dwindling. She'd seen my TEDx talk on YouTube, heard my lesson, trust your instincts, and started logging his texts in a Notion app. Just as I had with Nathan's lies, I caught him siphoning $5,000, she whispered, clutching a new Empower Fix journal like a lifeline. Your story saved me, Emma. Her eyes, once dim, now burned with resolve. That's the power of sharing stories. One small step, like opening a secret account or writing that first note, can shift your world. A 2023 Stanford study says 80% of women find empowerment through shared narratives, their courage sparked by others' truths. Maya's story isn't unique. It could be yours. What's the first step you're ready to take? But here's the twist. Some will call this revenge sneer, that it's petty to fight back. I say it's not revenge, it's reclamation. When Nathan laughed, "You're nothing without me," he expected me to fade to let his betrayal define me. Instead, I built Empower Fix, spoke at TEDx, and turned my condo into a hub for women like Maya. You can too, whether it's a business, a dream, or the courage to walk away. The world loves to dim our light, but we shine brighter together. That's why I'm sharing this on TPT Affair Stories, my YouTube channel, where every video uncovers a woman's rise from the ashes of betrayal. 2024 YouTube report says channels like mine thrive on community. Your comments, your stories, your clicks fuel the fire. Will you let Nathan's kind win, or will you join us to rewrite the ending? So here's my call, fierce and unapologetic. If you've ever faced a betrayal, doubted your worth, or dreamed of rising stronger, hit that red subscribe button on TPT Affair Stories. Right now, drop your story in the comments. Tell me the moment you trusted your gut, or the time you wish you had. Like this video, share it with a friend who needs to hear it, and ring that bell so you don't miss what's coming. Next week, I'm diving into how I scaled Empower Fix during chaos secrets you won't find in any business book secrets that could change your game. Don't wait for someone else to write your victory. Join me on TPT Affair Stories, and let's craft your triumph together. The world's waiting. What's your move?